bulletin, you will find a prayer request form for any prayer requests you may have. You can drop them in the offering basket later, and they will be put with other prayer requests. Our own prayer team prays over them for a week, and they are also sent to Silent Unity, where they are prayed over for a month. So today's announcements. We have several ongoing activities via Zoom. The login information is in your order of service under Unity Classes and Activities. You can also find links on our Facebook page. Pathlighters special live music and meditation event will be Thursday, August 5th, 8 p.m. with Garrett Wheeland, which is going to be a phenomenal presentation. There are details about Garrett in your July newsletter. If you're not receiving our newsletter, sign up at the table by the door with your email address. If you are an online viewer, please let us know and we can add you to the recipient list. Pathlighters weekly meeting is at 8 p.m. on Thursday for about 35 minutes, and is called Meditating with Unity Friends. And there are other Zoom activities and our book meeting study. All of this is given you on the insert on today's order of service. Now we will have the daily word read by Chris Diaz.
My name is Chris Diaz, and I thank you for being here with us. As we're joined together, the Christ candle is lit in recognition of the Christ within us all. And we join together with millions of others in Unity churches worldwide to share today's daily word. The word today is realize, and the affirmation is I realize the power of spiritual truth. I've had many aha moments throughout my life when something that has befuddled me for years suddenly becomes clear. It may have been something I tried to learn in school, a skill I practiced and tried to master as I grew, or even an idea that challenged my understanding of the world around me. Whenever I realized something new, I could feel my world expanding, opening up before me in fresh and exciting ways, making me eager to discover even more. On my spiritual journey, I feel a similar excitement as I realize I have so much more than a spark of divinity within me. I am fully divine, just as I am fully human. I feel newly alive in this wisdom. I feel newly alive in this realization, and so very grateful for it. From Genesis 28:16. Then Jacob woke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Chris. Please stand for the congregational affirmation. The joy of the Lord is your strength. God in me is infinite wisdom. He shows me what to do. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy path. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Naught can disturb me, For Christ is my peace and my poise. All things work together for good. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Faith is the strength of the soul inside, and lost is the man without it. The greatest teaching ever given is Christ in you, the hope of glory. God is my help in every need. Please remain standing for celebration song 120. Happiness is found within.
Happiness is found within. Happiness I'm found to win. I can change my thoughts from gloom to gladness. Happiness is found within. Happiness is found within. Happiness I'm found to win. I can change my thoughts from no I can't do can do. Happiness is found within. We search and seeking out ways to find our happiness, but when we turn to power within, we turn from no to yes. So I can change my mind today. Change my thoughts to good and say, joy is part of me. It is my very nature. Happiness is found when happiness is found when happiness is found within. We search and seeking out ways to find our happiness, but when we turn to power within, we turn from no to yes. So I can change my mind today. Change my thoughts to good and say, joy is part of me. It is my very nature. Happiness is found when happiness is found when happiness is found within.
Please remain standing for opening prayer. Together, Unity of Boerne is a vibrant, loving, spiritual community, providing a sacred space for personal growth. We honor and celebrate the Christ within all people. Thank you. Please be seated, and I'll now turn things over to Reverend Jay for the blessing and prayer requests.
Unity of Boerne is a praying church and one that affirms the truth of being. And in this time, I always like to give people the opportunity to write out their prayers and place them in this box if that's your desire. They are sent to Unity where they're prayed over for 30 days. So if you'd like to write a request right now, you have some time. Otherwise, I ask you to join me in prayer. Most infinite and gracious presence, we give thanks for the truth that sets us free. Our minds are receptive and open to your will, which is always good. Your path is always a peaceful one. And in our relative human conditions, as we grasp and struggle and move and have our being in ways we don't sometimes understand, we know that you are the author, perfecter, and finisher of everything good. We affirm this right now. We affirm that your presence is with these dear ones and that you are alive in their hearts and their minds, doing your perfect will. So it is.
To go with today's topic of you don't need fixing, I brought my song, Why Not Just Be Happy? It's about changing our focus to the abundance around us and the joy within us and living from that happy place. I was surprised
Wow.
Well, thank you, Jay.
Beautiful.
Tom is fixing my microphone right now, so I may be talking a little, well, I
You can
guess.
use that one.
Yeah.
And we don't know if it's gonna get fixed because we can't find batteries.
Good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to be with you as always. This morning I want to talk about a topic that is been on my mind for some time. When we talk about this idea of our inherent perfection and unity, our spiritual integrity, our oneness as one with the ever-present, ever-loving Spirit. We live in a world where we are taught to look outward from the very earliest days that we can remember. We're taught to look outward to validation, for approval, for who we are and what we are. And I think that one of the places that New Thought, thank you, sir, this is a little different. One of the places that I believe New Thought has had it correct all along is we come from the idea that we are already perfect, we're already loved, and we are whole and complete, and there's nothing that needs to be added to us to make us any more acceptable to God than we already are. Traditional churches, which I've been a little difficult on, because I want so badly for them to come to the party and understand the oneness and the love that moves across this planet in ways that we don't always hear, because the news media and outlets such as that make a lot of money and get a lot of viewers by reporting everything that's negative that's happening. Do you realize, as it said, it's called news because it's out of the ordinary. You know, not everybody is doing everything we see on the news. It's generally isolated events or conflicts, etc. But nevertheless, we look at these things, we think about these things, they affect sometimes our own well-being. We say we need a news break. I know after the past year, I do. I know that seeing it almost continuously for the last year, as I didn't set out to do that, just happened to have it on and would walk past it. Finally, I looked at Janet and I said, enough. A music video channel, the 80s, the 50s, the 10s, whatever, anything but this. You can be inundated with the idea of not enough, things are bad, and we don't think they're going to get better. But every time that we had a meeting in this church online, or of this church online, or anything to do with our spirituality, we affirmed inherent goodness, oneness, even through the roughest days of what happened last year. And now, as we appear to emerge from it, I would like for us to get a higher vision of who we are. After all, I believe that's my job, that's my calling, to remind you of something that you may have forgotten in the hurly-burly of living in this world. And it's not my words really, it was the words of Christ Jesus, who said, you are the light of the world, you're the salt of the earth. There was no room there for letting anyone feel that they were less than a perfect child of God. And New Thought affirms this, and that's why I love it so much. It says that you are enough already, that you don't need to be fixed, that you can make changes if that's your desire, and we uphold and support you, and the God presence upholds and supports you through change. I mean, look at it from the very basic tenets of the Bible. It was all about change from the beginning. the evolution of humankind, trying to learn what it was like to live in what they thought was an alien world, a world of strife and struggle and earthquakes and lightning and storms and fires and diseases. And they projected what they felt inside. And a lot of times it was fear. I think fear is enemy number one on the spiritual path. Now it's good when you're driving down the road or you lie down to take a nap and the cats are somewhere else so they don't jump on you. I've had that happen. I mean, just little things. I don't fear them. It's not that. It's just that take precaution. You know, make sure everything's all right when you're driving, when you're locking up your house, the things that we do on a practical basis. But fear as an existential part of you, that's something that I believe we need to be rid of finally. And I believe the institutional church has done a less than stellar job at this, but I believe our New Thought centers and churches have done wonderfully at it over the years. I mentioned Ms. Mary Bakeretti, the founder of Christian Science, who said that there is nothing we need to add from God, we simply need to realize. And from that vantage point came the Fillmores, who expounded on that idea, the founders of Unity. And from that came Nona Brooks. And from that came over and over teachers that were affirming this as we evolved in our understanding of who we are. There is really nothing that you can add to yourself at all. You can hear words from someone else. You can hear their opinions. You can seek good help. That's all wonderful, but it's an inside job. You have to realize your own ability to absorb the new and integrate it with what is the most important part of your own integrity. You have a mission that's unique to fulfill, and only you can do it. I can't look at you and tell you, and would not, that you're a broken person in need of grace, because that says that something else from the outside has to apply whatever. You already have it. You had it all the time. You have it right now. You don't need to be fixed. And it's interesting that as psychological thought became more prevalent last century, it resonated with New Thought. Think about Abraham Maslow and his ideas of self-realization and the ideas of cognitive behavior therapy, which said you are not your mistakes, that mental health can be very easy. There's action, belief, and consequence. You take an action, whatever you believe about that action has a consequence. Pretty basic stuff. And in Unity we say thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. We don't come at it from an idea that you are inherently lacking. And neither did the therapists and the psychologists that wrote about humankind's innate divinity and ability to make changes. But at a deeper level, I'd like to speak to you this morning about the overall feeling, the low-grade feeling that people can have that they're just not good enough, that they need something, someone to come along and fix them. Try it through relationships. Try it sometimes through substances. They try it in spending, in anything that promises to make you feel good for the moment. And the things that make you feel good for a moment generally turn out to make you feel bad for a long time. But those things that you do that you know are part of your deepest truth, and you take that in from whatever source, and you not so much work on yourself, you are willing to open your arms to the ideas of a new way to do something. And what I found that's interesting, and it was in my own life true, to begin a process of change like this, it's not too important that the plan you make be sound right away. It's important that you get into action. You can correct the plan as you go. But whatever it is that's held you back or whatever it is that hurts, it can be helped and healed by looking at it in a different way. Look at it as something that came your way for your growth, your upliftment, and your advancement. And that while it may be good to seek help from an outside source, you are ultimately the decider. You get to make the decisions of everything that's put in front of you in life as to what you'll take and what will be a part of you and what won't. Life is very much like a cafeteria line. We take what we want, and then sometimes we think if it's something we need to eat that's good for us, I'll get it next time. Right now I want this. We are choosing all the time, and then what happens is we project the consequences of that choice onto a decision we made about ourselves a long time ago. I can't help it because I like carbs. I like sugar. I like whatever it may be. Remember, it's not your mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, friends that run you, it's you. And their opinions are just that, opinions. You have the ability to make a different decision about yourself any moment you choose. And the old saying that I love is, when you're going through hell, keep going. Don't take too much time to sit there and ruminate about the why and the how. Learn from it, move through it. Take time to let it leaven you and season you and help you be more tender perhaps, or more loving, or to me the ultimate kindness. There's Ken Wapnick, who gave a wonderful lecture about A Course in Miracles, who said, be kind to everyone because they're fighting a battle you don't know anything about. Every one of us, every single one of us has something that we want to get on top of, that we wish could have been different, a hurt that came yesterday or years ago. All of us have that. And we need to show kindness to ourselves. If we're willing to tackle the ramifications of what that problem or that situation was, that's a stand for strength. That's you reaching out in the direction of growth. You're reaching out, as I said a few weeks ago, you're reaching out for new life. In Pathlighters, so many of them tune into our broadcast. And I know the hurts of some of them, the celebrations, the joys, the things. And what I find in even an online presence is that we pretty much have experienced the same things. We think it's unique to us, but we really have gone through the same things. It's just that we've put our flavor on it. So what does a spiritual objectivist look like? I know that's a mouthful, and I want to talk about that a little this morning. Objectivism was something mentioned by the author Ayn Rand, a transient atheist, and also wrote books you may be familiar with, The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged. You may find that it's strange for me to bring up such a person in a New Thought meeting, but trust me, there's a method to my admitted madness. Ayn Rand said in The Fountainhead, and rather her hero, Howard Rourke, said, I exist for my own sake. I choose what I would like to do, and then I make that happen as best I can. The hero was considered selfish. But if you read the book with, I think, a certain mindset, you will come to the idea that he was self-actualized, that he didn't want to hurt somebody else or take from somebody else or use somebody else. He wanted the ability to chart his own path and to stand, win, lose, or draw under the judgment of his own mind and character. And we here today, I think, really want to do the same thing. If somebody comes up and blesses us and says, I've added to you, I've helped you, I've given you of my wisdom, and you take all of it, well, even if you did, will you feel that's yours? Will you feel like you have been true to yourself? There's nothing like the feeling at 3 o'clock in the morning when you know you have given the truth of yourself to what's going on in your life. All of us have those times that we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, what am I about? What have I stood for? What have I done? And this week, it has come home to me because there is a person from 11 years ago who thinks that they're going to inform you about something new about the pastor of Unity of Boerne. And I'm here to disabuse, if they're watching, them of this notion. And I'm going to tell you exactly what it is. In the year 2009, against direct orders from a district superintendent of the Methodist Church and a bishop of the Methodist Church, I performed a same-sex wedding ceremony for two lovely ladies. I apologize for nothing, except for the 2 days it took me to get the starch enough up to say, I'm going to buck this. Did I go rogue? Yes. Did those two ladies in front of me need fixing? No. Did I need fixing? Well, maybe. I mean, I know me. But the thing that's most important was at the moment of that, kindness was offered, love was offered, and I stood in the truth of my being. And if somebody comes at you with the idea that I'm going to bring up something that you don't want to remember, or I want to tell something like that, remember, it's not about you, it's about them. And then that brings it back to what I'm talking about this morning. You don't need fixing. All you need to do is realize. When I performed that ceremony, I realized the truth about these two ladies. They were perfect, inherently wonderful, truth-filled affirmations of the living God. And who was I or anyone else, no matter their rank or position, to state how they could love, who they could love, as long as they were of age and consent. It may have hurt me at that time, and it did, but I was able to sleep with myself. And I hope that you all understand that far from feeling like I was going rogue in some way, I felt like I was being true to the highest calling of love that I wanted to share in my heart. As a matter of fact, one of those two lovely ladies felt like she was broken because of her orientation. And we counseled together. And I said, there's nothing broken about you. You are the victim of hundreds of years of prejudice and thoughtlessness and unkindness. And you're a trailblazer. And get out there and be happy. That's what it's all about. And that's what I'm trying to say to you and to Pathlighters and to everybody that's watching. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You may have made some unwise decisions, joined the family. You may have done some things you wish you'd never done. And some of those things you may have found out were the best things that could have happened because you set up and took on a different role and idea about who you are. I'm saying the things that happen in life are not against us. They're ultimately for us because we get to make the decision. And one person who wrote, his name is Mark Prentice, who wrote Zen and the Art of Happiness, said to believe that everything that happens, the next bend of the road, whether we understand it or not in life, is the best bend in the road. It's happening for your good, even if you can't see it right now. Now, don't hear me say that you shouldn't get the best counsel if you want it, that you shouldn't get other people's ideas if that's your desire, but be willing as a spiritual objectivist to stand in your own truth. To stand in your own truth, win, lose, or draw, and let the cross currents of opinion do what they will, is an act of integrity. It's an act that strengthens you. It's an act that makes you more into the wonderful truth that Christ Jesus came to teach and live. Jesus Christ rather, was an actualized person. He knew his mission. He never deviated from love. He never called anyone broken. And he never said it to anything to make someone feel less than what they were, save and except the money changers in the temple. And that's the subject for a whole nother message. But the people in front of him, he saw their inherent perfection. They realized it, and they were healed in his presence. Some just needed to see him. Some needed to touch the hem of his garment. But they were all healed, because perfect love does that. Oh, now we get to my favorite part. The sine qua non of everything that is blessed to me in ministry. Love. Gerald Jampolsky, the psychiatrist from Tiburon, California, wrote a book called Love is Letting Go of Fear. I'm sure you all have heard of it. And one of the principles that he put in the 12 principles of attitudinal healing is, I can see peace instead of this. I can see peace instead of this, whatever this is. Let me ask you, if you're going through a very difficult time, do you need to add to it and fan the own flames inside? Or do you need to change your mind about what you're going through? Even other people will say, calm down, get a grip, sit down, take a deep breath. Because the whole idea we inherently know is to return to center, return to the homeostasis of the truth that guides us without the physical symptoms of anxiety and stress. We all know that's the ideal. So whatever it is that you go through, don't get yourself in a desert. Don't work yourself up about it. That makes it harder to affect the change you want. It's almost like what I mentioned earlier about this character in a very secular book, Howard Rourke, The Fountainhead. He would journal almost on a piece of paper, A, B, C, D, what do I need to achieve my objective? And the list would be crossed off, one after another, as he stood and grew in his truth. As spiritual objectivists that don't need fixing, we can do that. Not in a cold-hearted, dispassionate way, but in a way that recognizes our own uniqueness. Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote about this in 1976 in Your Erroneous Zones. In fact, his title on one of his chapters was, You Don't Need Their Approval. It's nice to have it. It feels good to have it. But you don't need it. Because if you need it, then you're lacking when you don't get it. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy to hear somebody disapprove of you, just go home and forget it. But in a way, that's almost what I'm saying. You hear it, you see if it fits. Don't be afraid of criticism. That's just your ego blanching. It's not you. Let it in. See if what they say works, if it's true for you. And if not, forget it. Realize that all opinions are projections of the people involved. They're not necessarily the truth. So where do you find that love that I'm talking about, that truth that I'm talking about? That comes from within. And any spiritual teacher worth his or her salt will tell you to look within always. Know thyself was the ancient command of Socrates. Be acquainted with who you are, what drives you, what makes you you. Congratulate yourself for making it this far. Think about all the things that you've gone through up till now. I know I do. I remember those wonderful times, and they're wonderful. I think memories soften things. But oh, what I'd give right now to be in my father's classroom and rolling those spitballs in the fan like I did. And it popping around, and I thought I was the big guy with all my friends back there because Dad was a teacher. He's not going to do anything to me except tell me that we'll repeat this whole thing over again when you get control of yourself. And that pulled me back from throwing those balls in that fan real quick. There are things that we, at the time, they look stressful or whatever, but we've come through them. Not just small like what I mentioned, but the big things. Deaths of loved ones, pains of losing jobs, relationships that break up, or when somebody says, you're not needed here anymore, you're not wanted here. Whatever the case may be, life can be heartbreaking. I'm not here saying that the truth saves us from our relative human existence. The truth girds us for our human existence. It's there underneath us. We lean on infinite arms. When we don't understand, we fall back. I think that in the act of falling back into the arms of truth, there is profound strength. It's self-love of the highest order, to trust in the intelligence that made you, and that you can be nowhere where this presence of spirit is not, and that the things that you think are the most shameful, the most devious, any adjective you put to it, those things that you are concerned about inside, I bet you 9 people out of 10 have forgotten all about it. And the 10th ones that may have a judgment, all they need to do is forgive themselves, but maybe they won't. So you forgive them and you go on. Recognize that life is a do-it-yourself project, a do-it-with-God project. Do you see that I'm saying when yourself is doing it, God is doing it? Because God can be nowhere present but inside you, as your point of contact, the place that you touch this presence. What hurts you this morning? I don't want you to tell me necessarily, but think about what hurts you, what's driven you, the things that may go way back. I promise you, the mind feels like they're going on right now. Subconscious never sleeps. It's forever busy. And it partakes the nature of the character of what we feel about ourselves. Dr. Robert Schuller, I told you, wrote a book called Self-Love. It's wonderful. It's not very thick, and I highly recommend it. Yes, there are some things that are sort of quaint about the old church, but he was on the cutting line, the cutting edge of understanding that what the church needs today is people who have self-esteem and stand in their power and live their lives empowered and not weakened by others' opinions, thoughts, wishes, desires, aims, whatever they want of you. You see, when you decide in favor of yourself that you don't need fixing, you're going to encounter resistance, first of all, from you. Isn't that funny? We want to hold on sometimes to the very things that we're trying to get away from because we've received an identity from it. Well, you see, I'm suffering because of the way I was treated by my family. And I've done it for so many years. And if I give it up, what fills it? What am I going to think about, talk about, be about? Some people build their whole lives around this idea of a suffering self-image. And it happens so gradually sometimes, over such a long period of time, that they're not even aware that they're being literally boiled in their own angry juices or hurtful juices. This morning, get up. Stand up in your power. You don't have to be the architect Howard Rourke and go out and build buildings and do all kinds of things like that. It can be a profound act of strength to stand up where you are and know that there's a better way to be and that you are determined to find it and that you're open and receptive to finding it. I could see peace instead of this. Good place to start. I am not a victim of the world I see. It's another good place to start. I forgive myself unconditionally for ever thinking thoughts that were not godlike about me. I forgive myself, in my case, for going rogue in 2009. But see, I never really blamed myself. It was just a matter of how was I going to navigate this controversy. And one thing that I held on to throughout that whole ordeal was that when you show love, and when it comes from the very heart, essence, deepest part of your being, you're showing kindness. And when you're showing kindness, you are fulfilling what Jesus Christ taught us. To love one another, to bear each other's burdens, to go the extra mile. Those are profoundly loving statements. No matter who wants to concentrate on the negative and the shadow side of existence. In Unity and New Thought, we face the light proudly. It's wonderful to stand in the light of God's love. It's a profoundly positive act, and it's the only thing that's going to change us from victimhood to overcomers. We're victims of ourselves most of the time. And a simple change of idea or opinion can start you walking in a new direction. I'm behind that. I support you. I bless you. Yes, I love you for doing this. It takes courage. You know, life isn't always sunshine and flowers. But you know what? There's always sunshine in here. No matter what we're going through. Always turn to the ever-present, ever-living, ever-loving truth that holds and upholds. I get excited as I did 32 years ago when I talk about it. So this morning I want you to think about what it means to stop fixing yourself and be a spiritual objectivist. An objective that you want to achieve, that means something to you, and that you're willing to stake all for. That's the stuff that life's made of. That makes it an exciting adventure rather than pulling behind the dead weight of the past, the I'ms as I call them. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not old enough. Go on down the list. I'm. But in metaphysics and New Thought, we know I'm are very powerful words. I am. God said that. So take those I'ms that you may describe yourself with and turn it around. So if you feel like you have been weak in one area, call it by faith. I am strong, and your intention will line up behind your words if you allow it. If you cut yourself a break and stop fixing yourself and learn to love you for exactly who and what you are. I give thanks for every one of you this morning being here. And I declare this message and this truth and this love as being so. Together, let's take a deep breath, or two, or three. We become aware of a golden ball of light inside of us. And where we first become aware of it is really where we need it the most. The healing, loving energy that this light produces courses through us, as us in this moment, and the mistakes we feel we've made, missteps, the things we may have wished we hadn't done. All that is melted in the love and light of God's holy presence. Expressing as you, through you right now. You watch this ball of light become bigger. You take its healing energy and place it where you need it. It straightens the path that you walk. You are one with this presence. And together, in this holy instant, you make decisions about your life, about other people. Yet know that those decisions take place inside you first. And so this light is a clarifying light. Everything that you need to know is given you in this holy place. The answers come quickly. The love you need, that you feel you lack, is present. Never left you for a moment. And we realize that in this experience called life, we make decisions. And we live with those decisions until we change our minds. In this moment, we happily release and let go all that is unlike what we wish to experience. We let love lead the way. The power and the grandeur of love fill us to overflowing. We are remade right now. We give thanks for this sustaining power. We are in tune with the infinite, right where we sit or stand or lay. And this warming, loving light is us. The presence of God within each and every one of us. That makes straight the crooked places and makes the path full of light. Profoundly relaxed right now, we remember our true identity. We're aware of that voice inside, of that presence that stands at the door and gently knocks. And in this moment, we invite that presence in, and our objectives become clear. And we are ready to experience life in a whole new way. gently bringing our attention back to the present. We feel present. We feel renewed and remade, recreated. We feel as if our spiritual batteries are recharged. In this holy place, all is forgiven. And we accept that truth and apply it liberally to ourselves. We give thanks for recreation. And we give thanks that we are living, moving, and being in the presence of the God Spirit. And so it is. This is the time in our service that we get to give back, knowing that as we give, we receive. It sounds almost hackneyed to say it all the time, but it is true. You are an inlet for the divine, and you're an outlet for the divine. Life doesn't appreciate stagnation, it's flow. And we know that when we're in the act of giving, we're in the flow. So if I could have someone come forward who would like to pass this, and Pathlighters and those who are tuning in, you know that I say time spent with animals is never wasted. And I know a lot of you are watching with your dear ones, and I didn't mean to suggest that I don't like to nap with mine. It was simply that when they're playing and tearing up things, those claws could hurt sliding across the chest. And some of you know this inside joke. I'm so glad that you're with us today, and I invite you to give the best gift you can through our Unity of Boerne Facebook page where you're watching. There is a PayPal donation button, and if you prefer, you can give by mail to Unity of Boerne, P.O. Box 1973, Boerne, Texas 78006. Unity of Boerne, P.O. Box 1973, Boerne, Texas 78006. And now I invite you to take the gift you have at home in your hand, and if you don't have one, you place your hands together, sort of like this, visualizing something you're thankful for and want more of in your life, and repeat this blessing with me. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I send it forth with my blessings and my love. So it is.